Watch you thing.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. First thing that I want to mention is the new counselor training recap. John and I recently did new counselor training at Socoa, which is in Area 8. And we used the Medicare Rights University videos integrated with the old format of training from reading from the nav guides. From the presenter standpoint, I think the goods were that the videos really helped start the process of learning for the counselors. They're relatively simple to follow, they give good foundational information, and it gives the counselors an opportunity to think about what questions they need to ask or what they need to know more on each topic. It also took less, pressure off of us as presenters to make sure that they get all the information from A to Z in their heads before training is over. From the counselor evaluations that I received back, a lot of them said that they really liked the mock scenarios on the last day. A handful of them said that the quizzes were pretty beneficial, and overall it seemed like everyone liked the concept of doing videos instead of just reading from the nav guides. Areas from improvement, I think from a presenter standpoint, it was a little difficult to know what topics to reiterate and give more in-depth detail on. The last day of training was created the day before training, kind of a spur-of-the-moment situation because we ran out of things to talk about, and actually Jessica did a very good job of putting together mock scenarios, and I think that really helps the counselors. So hopefully in future trainings, those mock scenarios will work just as well. It was a little awkward having the counselors switch nav guides throughout one single day. It took a lot of time, kind of wasted time in my opinion. From the counselor standpoint, the things they would improve, they weren't sure what they needed to take notes on, so they thought it was important for them to write every single bit of information that they were learning from the videos down. We've corrected this problem by now having the print-offs that have the slides, and it also has a little section for notes so that they have everything with them. They also wanted the nav guides to completely follow along with the PowerPoint, but I don't think that's going to be possible unless we completely tear apart the nav guides and start over. Yeah, so I don't think that one's necessarily the most feasible thing to do. Someday. And they also asked for more time when filling out the quizzes, so I'll be sure to reiterate that to all of the presenters just to give them a little bit more opportunity to read the questions before giving the answers. On Friday, John and I met with Ray and Joel and Fred and Trudy up in Fort Wayne and went over presenters orientation for new counselor training. I have another presenters orientation for Linda and Levon here in Indianapolis this Friday. And then so far we have 3 more new counselor trainings scheduled, one in Fort Wayne starting this week with Fred, one in Plymouth with Ray and Joel in the beginning of March, and then one in Columbus with Levon at the end of March. And I think that we're planning on having probably at least one more in Christelle's area, at least one more in Ben's area, and at least one more in Laurel's area, because there's some stragglers still that we need to attend to. Other than that, did anybody have any questions about new counselor training? How it works, the process, any kind of issues?
Well, the videos, this is Joel, the videos look pretty long. Did the people have a problem?
5 minutes.
For recruitment purposes, I haven't looked at the website in a long time under the Department of Insurance, the SHIP site, that's how to volunteer. Is that going to be maintained as an updated place where you can refer new people to doing that kind of thing? Is it still there?
Yes. Yep. So Sarah maintains that. As far as I know, that's still up and running. That's how we get our counselors to submit their applications, and then they get vetted through the area managers. And then Elizabeth runs a background check, and then we schedule them for training after that.
Okay. Yeah. And we don't really. Is there any way that you should probably put in there that there's really no training opportunities during that kind of 4 months at the end of the year?
We can certainly update when the trainings will likely be. We just don't ever know when they will specifically be because we have that new kind of guideline of having 5 counselors before we schedule a training.
Yeah, but we can post the ones that are already scheduled and have the new ones scheduled. So
We
new applicants can see those dates and try to hit those dates. so.
Yeah.
Sarah will need to, I know you always have like, spring trainings listed, you need to open up that section. I know you've had it on there before for new counselors.
Okay, so it's always kind of a mystery when they were going to occur.
That process is going back and forth a lot of times, and whoever was going to give them to me, it'll change, so yes, we'll get that back on track.
Okay, because it's easy to send people there and read it, look at it, but kind of update it and get someplace.
And if we could have a link by the application, where, you know, new people who are, submitting online applications can pop next to those dates.
Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. And I think we're doing a better job of scheduling them more in advance than what we have in the past. You know, usually I think there was only a couple weeks notice for most people, and you know, a lot of working, right, a lot of working people can't really accommodate that. So I think we're doing a better job of scheduling them a month to 2 months out. So that way it gives plenty of time for people to make arrangements if they need to.
So now that we have some new counselor presenters, it's going to be a little easier to schedule too, I think.
Yeah, and John, Fred, did you think, you know, it seems like presenting new counselor training is going to be a relatively seamless process?
I think I'll find out tomorrow morning.
Okay, all right. There you go.
You're
Good
the
answer.
test pilot anyway.
Well, the other problem is we're due for a half a foot of snow tomorrow, or next day, so I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Right. John, did you have anything else to add, your kind of notes from new counselor training?
No, I think it's going to be, take a while for presenters to catch the drift of going back and forth from the videos to the nav guides, because they don't match up necessarily day by day, and there's a lot of switching back and forth that you need to get used to.
What I'm going to try is just have a book for every day, and then take the section of the nav guide and actually put it in that book.
Move it into that book.
So it's easier for presenters to not have to mess with all the new counselors. Yeah,
But that's reality too. You know, people don't come to you with simple questions that you can find in one place.
Right.
Which I think that really did benefit the new counselors to do the mock scenarios. So days 1 through 4, they went in thinking, okay, I have this. I understand what Part A is. I understand what Part B is. And then when Jessica asked them, you know, a question of, hey, I'm 65 and I have this and this and this, and they were like, deer in headlights of, oh gosh, what do I say back? And this person's live on the phone, they need an answer. So I think the mock scenarios, even though it was a spur-of-the-moment decision to fill time, I think that actually turned out to be probably one of our most beneficial tools for new counselor training. All right, any other questions about new counselor training? Any comments, concerns? No? Okay, all right, let's get started on the update training stuff. Sarah, do you want to
jump in here?
Oh, yeah.
For those of you, that are here that are shift staff, we were going to follow this up with a regional staff call. Instead, we're going to devote all the time toward training. This is similar to what we've done in the past. In March, we would have a conference call entirely devoted to training. Well, that's what this is going to be. The only announcement I have for staff is that the shift-based grant was submitted last week successfully, I hope. And when I get more feedback, I'll let all of the staff know.
Okay.
Can't hear you very well. Oh.
I can't hear Cheryl. Do you want me to go on?
No, we're moving that around a little bit. Can you hear me better? I also have a cold, so I'm kind of groggy right now.
Katie or Sarah, should I go on mute? Would that help?
It's been fine, so you don't have to if you don't want to.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you ever want us on mute, just tell us.
Okay, I can also mute you, but so far it's been clear.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, Cheryl, thank you.
I'll say it again, Cheryl.
Well, it was for shift staff. Did all the shift staff hear me?
Yes.
Laura, did you hear
Yes.
what I said? Okay.
Yes, I can.
All right. So we'll go on with the training. Katie, did you want me to talk about the agenda now or wait till after you finish?
Go ahead, you can because then Sarah can put it together as we're talking about it.
Okay. Usually what we've done previously when we talk about a new training session is put together the agenda. So I think we ought to go ahead and address that now before we get into the deep part of the presentation. So usually, since we have 3 hours, try to break things up accordingly by time. As we go through Katie's presentation, we need to assign 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever we need. We have to have a break in there. Also remember that April is Volunteer Appreciation Month, and so we want to give area managers 10, 15 minutes right off the bat. We do have a gift, appreciation gift. It is a cup that holds fruit and water. You know, everybody's on a health kick now, but you know, it's got a thing in the middle of it. You can put lemons or oranges or strawberries, whatever.
Infused.
Okay, see, I'm not with it. I just know it.
Infuse your water.
Infuse your water. So it's everybody's drinking water and choosing healthier drinks, and so that's what this is. Has a little message on it, you know, about volunteers and appreciation. I'll remind area managers that you can bring a snack or a cake or whatever you want in honor of appreciation. Sorry, I've got a cough drop, so I don't hack all over everybody in the room. But and we'll reimburse you for that. Again, area managers know what their people like. They bring fruit or cakes or cookies or whatever, and again, we'll reimburse you. Or the site. I believe all of our sites we have vendor information on, so we can reimburse them for anything that the site provides, like coffee and water and snacks or whatever. But we cannot purchase a meal because it's only a half-day training.
Okay.
The only other thing, and then I'll let Katie do her thing, is we are going to package the presenter notebooks again and the folders for the counselors similarly to what we did in the fall. And if you have any feedback about the manuals for the presenters or the counselors, we did a folder. If you can say those things as we're going through the materials so that Katie can incorporate any changes or additions or things you liked and didn't like, so we can get that, you know, proceed with that after everything's printed up. Okay, your turn.
All right, so let's start with the registration form. These are the dates, locations, times that we have for update training. You can see the locations. We do have presenters scheduled for every single location and date so far. If any of you, want to look at this and make sure your specific sites or area managers make sure that your addresses are correct on this, that would be greatly appreciated. I know, at least with Parkview, it changes from update training of where you're going to hold the update training. So some of the addresses might not be 100% correct. So area managers, if you don't mind, when you have some time looking this over, making sure with your sites that these are the correct addresses and locations, dates, times. I think we're planning on trying to get this out within the next week. So again, people have plenty of time to accommodate schedules if they need to, and we can get everything kind of started sooner rather than later. All right, we'll go forward on the presentation itself. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. All right, and that's not live.
Can I ask a question about areas of training?
Sure.
I don't see Area 10 there. Did you decide not to do Area 10?
Remind me again, where's Area 10?
In Ellisville?
Laura Lee, do you want to chime in on that? Maybe. Laura Lee, can you hear me? I think we did a majority of the ones that we did last year. A few of them decided that they could not hold it this year. I'm not sure about Ellisville. We'd have to specifically talk to Laura Lee. I went off of what was done for the fall.
Well, I do know that there are only 3 counselors there, and there was a 5-counselor member. So it could have been, Ellisville kind of, it would be silly to have a whole bunch of Bloomington counselors go to Ellisville, when Ellisville counselors,
Can go to Bloomington.
well, not all of them, but maybe they're gonna switch off, because they're staff people, they can't leave their call center.
Chriselle at the bottom, the Elkhart one, I don't know if you want to have Elkhart training or not, but if you could check in with them or just let me know if you want to have one.
I've lost my coordinator there, and they haven't gotten back to me on a contact for the site.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to have one there. I think there's plenty in your area. Again, just check into that and let me know. Again, we're trying to get it out within the next week, so if you don't mind.
And I also think my Plymouth, I'm waiting for a call back from Jackie, but I was kind of out of the office last week because my husband was in the hospital. I'm waiting for Jackie. Some of her folks are on snowbirds, and I might have to push Plymouth into May.
Okay.
So I'll find out today. I'll change that as soon as I can today, if it's going to change.
Okay.
That would be my only change that I know of, is Plymouth might move into May.
Marcel, if you could make that the first week of May, we need to move forward and not be dragging these out through the month of May.
She had given me a date at the first week. It was a suggested date, like 10th or something.
You say the 10th?
I'm not sure. I'll call Jackie. I won't rely on email.
Yeah.
Yesterday was my first day back.
And we're scheduling presenters for this, and, we really didn't talk about it being outside of the month of April at all. So if we can get that as close to the end of April as possible, it would help Katie with scheduling a presenter.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and get started on the PowerPoint. This slide is up one more. All right, so Susan had the idea at the last education committee meeting of a kind of a rhetorical joke of, well, you asked for it, here it is. So I decided that that would be kind of our running theme for this spring update training of you asked, we answered. So we can kind of incorporate some of the commonly asked questions or the questions maybe that we thought should be asked because it's new information. That way we can present it to the counselors in this kind of format. All right, so as Cheryl stated, April is the month of volunteer appreciation. So in the introduction, I kind of have some time set aside for the area manager to give, a little 10, 15-minute spiel about, appreciation and welcome to SHIP update training.
If we could have Sarah go ahead and start keeping that agenda as we go through because we just assigned 10 to handwrite it. Okay. I didn't know if you could do it on the computer so everybody can see it.
They'll need to see this at the same time, right? So what I'll do is I'll type it on this one, and then I'll switch screens to my computer in a little bit.
Okay.
I think that'll work.
However you...
Tell me if you have a better idea.
I can write it down.
Well, they'll need to be able to see it eventually. I thought about writing it, but I'm thinking...
All right, so I'm not exactly sure how the presenter notes were done in the past, but for this, I thought it was easier if I just did the note section, as you can see in the bottom, with the information. So as we go along, there will be more information in that white box than what there is on the presentation itself. That's meant for the presenters to read and not necessarily for all of the counselors to view. That way, when I print this out for the presenters, they make sure that they know what slide that they're on with the correlating information. I thought it was just a little bit more simple to keep track of where everyone was and keep everybody on the same page. So
You know you're gonna get the, I can't read this, right, because the font's too small.
I can make that bigger. I can do it. All right. So the spring training topics that we have, advanced care planning, enrollment periods, Medicare and HSAs, Medicaid troubleshooting, and MSP application troubleshooting. All right. What am I keeping track of? Just the timeline for each one of these things?
An agenda.
Yeah. All right. So first slide, what is this advanced care planning option now being offered by Medicare? This is something that's relatively new. So every slide goes, you asked, we answered. Advanced care planning is a new service that's offered by Medicare Part B in 2016. Starting January 1, Medicare will cover advanced planning as a separate service provided by physicians. As well as other physician services, advanced care planning will be subject to cost sharing. Advanced care planning is purely optional for beneficiaries. It's not required. I'm not sure if you want me to read through this whole thing or if we just want to go through it slide by slide and see if anybody had questions on the information or any suggested wording changes or information changes.
Have you already read through these now?
I think a majority of people have. I know I sent it out on Thursday, so I think at least I've heard back from several people of their suggestions already. Did anybody need me to read through these? Did anybody have any questions on this slide in particular? No?
Kitty, there's quite a lot of notes on that particular section, and this is something new. Will the counselors ever have access to these notes after the training's over? Because a month later, when they look at their screenshots, they may not remember all of these comments that you've included in the notes.
Well, on the handouts, I got all of the information specifically from the handouts. I copied and pasted it from the handouts into the notes.
So it would be in the handouts?
So it'll be in the
Okay.
handouts, yeah.
Okay.
I think what's different from what I did from years past is I didn't necessarily incorporate the handouts. It's more as just like additional materials to read on your own rather than having to flip back and forth between the presentation materials and then reading the handouts and then back to the presentation materials. It's more or less just to give them additional information if they want to read it afterwards. All right. So does anybody have any questions about advanced care planning that I didn't quite explain fully or in detail enough? Go ahead.
These are handouts A and B, so why don't we mark them handouts A and B?
They will be. They'll be in tabs. I just didn't have time to do them today for your material.
Just don't mess them up.
Yeah, they should be all in order, you guys.
Okay, thanks.
And then along those lines, when we are introducing the training and that kind of thing, people will say, a lot of what I will talk about is provided in your handouts, which are marked, so you'll know which handout goes. So don't feel like you have to try to write down everything I say, because our counselors, if they've been around for a while and they've gone through a couple of these trainings, they are used to a PowerPoint being used as a handout, not as a presentation tool. And we're going back to what the real meaning of the PowerPoint started was. It's a visual aid, not to be used as a handout, but to be used as a visual aid, and then the speaker fills in the information. So this is going to be a lot different, and people are going to be trying to write down everything we say unless we tell them ahead of time. Don't freak out. Not written here, it's written elsewhere.
Okay. All right, I'm writing things down as people are saying comments.
Yeah, the other thing that, I don't know if you want to bring this up, but I just tried to look it up and I can't get connected. There's a new order form that's out, and it's for terminally ill patients. It is a physician's order sheet. It is different from advanced directives, but it's something it's called the POST, P-O-S-T, P-O-L-S LST or something like that, like it's physician order something form. And it's not something that we should be talking about here, but the question may come up, some people may know about that.
It already has.
And
Somebody
maybe
asked
the
me if
presenters.
this replaces the post.
Yeah, so the presenters,
And the answer is no.
yeah, that's just so they know that.
Okay, so does not replace that.
Right.
All right.
And that is a tool for physicians, like
Well,
terminally ill.
and the individual who's terminally ill owns that piece of paper. And it's a signed, it has to be, it's like a signed doctor's order. And then you would take that if you were that terminally ill person to say, I want this implemented.
right.
Yeah, okay.
And
But
they
it's
might-
not an advanced directive by any stretch.
Okay.
And you might include that where, on the first slide, it says, not need to have a terminal illness or life-threatening condition. You might make that another sentence there, it says not. It's not.
Yeah, you don't want to get in a big, long discussion about it, but the counselors, the presenters need to know an answer to the question if it comes up probably.
Okay. All right, anything else on advanced care planning that we need to go over? So topic 2. So advanced care planning fair probably will only take 20 minutes.
What about the introduction awards, anything else that's done before that? How much time would you like to allot for that?
15, 20 minutes. Nice.
No? And we'll hone it in.
Okay, so what are the different enrollment periods again? So this is kind of just a refresher, or it might be something new for the newer counselors. This is also a handout. As you can see, it says handout C up here, so the presenters will need to reiterate that they do have this information as a handout as well as on this PowerPoint. John, did you have any issues with this?
Not the way you
wording?
have it now, I think it's fine.
Okay,
You did change it from what it said originally.
okay. Did anybody have any comments, concerns, anything on this handout? No? All right, so,
I've got a comment for the agenda. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sidetrack here, but, before on the agenda and the registration, we've had a comment that said, please arrive early or on time. Had issues with people coming in late and kind of getting everybody out of school. So I just want to make sure we will have that on the registration
yeah.
and the agenda.
okay, yeah, so if you don't mind putting that on the agenda. It's on the registration form. But it's not.
Okay.
All right, another difference between some of the update training that we've done in the past and this one is I really wanted to start incorporating case studies so that people have scenarios to put this information to good use. Otherwise, I feel like you're just throwing information out there and then asking them to remember it if they ever run across scenarios. So some of the case studies are a little bit more complicated than others. Again, this is something we probably can't tailor to every counselor's experience. The new counselors may find these more difficult than some of the more seasoned counselors and vice versa. So I thought that was kind of important. If you go through these case studies and something doesn't make sense, please let me know. I kind of, between John and I, we made these up, so they could have some flaws that we didn't think about or I didn't think about in them. This first case study is about volunteering outside of the country and missing the initial enrollment period, and what you would tell him of whether he needs to wait for the general enrollment period or if he'll qualify for a special enrollment period. So what we're going to do with these case studies, or what we have planned right now, is the presenter is going to read these case studies. They're going to present them to the counselors. It'll give maybe 5-10 minutes for the counselors to all discuss among themselves what the correct answer will be. And then at the end, we will give out a handout that has all of the case study answers. I think we decided we didn't want to put the answer on the PowerPoint itself because then people will just flip to the next page and read the answer and not really have to think about it or talk too much about it. So we really wanted to give the opportunity for everyone to be able to discuss and integrate everyone's knowledge into their answers. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the whole concept of doing case studies? No. All right. So you asked, what might constitute a special enrollment period for Part B coverage? All right.
Do we want to do a time frame for that one case study, or is that just going to be absorbed in under another category?
I would probably put it just under the special enrollment category. Yep. So here, this is talking about the special enrollment period, Part B. Again, at the bottom it says see handout D. All the information that I have put in the presenter's notes comes from handout D. So they should be able to find all of the presenter note information. If they need it later, they can reference it. Did anybody have any questions about this? On the PowerPoint that we're looking at now, it might be a little bit different than what I sent out on Thursday. I tried to incorporate Fred's comments, Cheryl's comments, John's comments. Well, I tried to change what they had asked me to change in terms of wording. This slide in particular reminded me because of equitable relief. John asked for a definition of equitable relief, so just in case counselors are confused as to what that means. So you can see in that second paragraph it says equitable relief is an administrative process under federal law that allows people with Medicare to request relief from the SSA in the form of immediate or retroactive enrollment into Part B. So it might be a little bit different, but the changes weren't too drastic, I don't think. Did anybody have any questions about this? Any special enrollment Part B things that you want to change?
How would you initiate an equitable relief request?
It has to be done through the Social Security Administration in writing.
Is there a form?
No, there is no form.
Okay.
It would be a letter, or there's a form that Social Security uses that's called Statement of Claimant, claimant being the beneficiary. It's just a general form where you just write out the request that you're making and sign it.
As far as what I understand, it's pretty informal process of they don't have a specific timeline that they have to get back to you.
And the people at the local Social Security offices generally don't make the determinations. They have to send it in to their headquarters for that. But they can make a recommendation from the local office as to whether they think the information that the client is presenting is factual or not.
Okay. Do we want to put more information about equitable relief in?
Well, you might say that, it's handled by their local Social Security office and must be in writing.
Well, I think you need to make a point also, or at least put it someplace where it can be brought up if need to be, that people who just decide that they're not going to enroll in Part B, because they don't want any government bothering them, and then they have to have a hip replacement and want Part B next week when they're 70 years old, that's not an equitable relief situation.
No, it is not.
And there are people who, just will not sign up for these things. And then,
Well, I've helped several people since I've been with SHIP to ask for equitable relief and to help them document their circumstances. And none of them have been approved by Social Security.
Yeah. And that's what I put on there. Could lead to an SEP, although rarely approved by Social Security. So
You might want to swing in there that the form is not, there isn't a form, but there is a form, it sounds like, and it's not available online, because we tell people all the time, oh, go to ssa.gov and you can do everything online. Oh,
And it may be worth mentioning too, there's absolutely no appeal rights involved with this. So if you blow it, you've blown it. There's no chance of making it up later with an appeal.
Okay. All right. Any other special enrollment Part B issues we need to go over?
Or do you want to allot time for that?
I think this is all probably just going into the special enrollment period. Yeah. You asked what might constitute. Yes.
Oh, Katie, can I ask John if we can put a blurb in there for where we would direct federal employees to the OEMC? Is that the right OMC?
Well, you're thinking of OPM, but
Thank you.
the Office of Personnel Management, but they wouldn't have any influence about Medicare itself. They would only be interested in the insurance aspect of it. But it would still have to go through the Social Security Administration.
Okay, that's probably what I get a lot of former retirees questions, more and more, and it seems like more and more don't opt into Part B. The
They
client
listen to somebody that's possibly not giving them good advice.
Okay.
It's not mandatory?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not mandatory to have Part B if you're a federal employee. Now, some of the federal retirees have opted out of the insurance that they had when they were working, and they've decided to just go the general Medigap or Medicare Advantage route, and that's okay. But as with most things, once you're out of it, you're out of it. You can't opt back in.
Okay.
All right. So now Part D, or Medicare Advantage Plan Special Enrollment. So there's obviously a lot more options, I guess, for whether or not you qualify for a special enrollment for Part D or an Advantage plan. The ones that I've listed on here are just a few of the ones that I've taken from Handout E, probably the most common, I would say. The losing creditable drug coverage, it's important that in the presenter notes that they say through no fault of the client. If they lose creditable drug coverage due to non-payment, that doesn't qualify for a special enrollment. Again, all of this information at the bottom says see Handout E. It gives detailed information about each of these special enrollments, what constitutes the special enrollments, when they would be allowed to enroll, when their coverage would start. It's a pretty lengthy handout. Again, most of these, I think, at least the seasoned counselors will know or have heard of. It might just be a quick refresher for the new counselors.
And we don't have any five-star plans in Indiana.
Right.
That might be something to note in.
And parentheses are available in Indiana,
I'm just turning up my date.
as with that training. We can always cross our fingers.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions on this slide? No. Okay. All right. So again, here, this still goes through the special enrollment. So you asked what happens if the client missed his or her Part B initial enrollment period and isn't eligible for a special enrollment period. All right, so here we're going into another one of those case studies. Fred made this lovely chart at the bottom to add, so that way it's a little bit more easily to remember what the dates are. It might be a little small on the printout, sorry guys. Bob turned 65 in March 2014. His IEP ended in June 2014. He forgot to sign up for his Medicare. He's not currently working and does not receive Social Security yet. He signed up for Part A and B in January 2016 during the general enrollment period. Someone told him he might have to pay a Part B penalty, so he calls you at SHIP. Does he have to pay a penalty, and if so, how much is the penalty?
I think Barb is back reading that, sure.
I have a recommendation as far as his situation. He might put, because he had retiree coverage, because retiree, unless it's credible drug coverage, as far as Part B, it doesn't get you off the hook for the penalty. Even if it's credible retiree health insurance, it doesn't matter. If you don't enroll in Part B, you still have the penalty.
Okay.
Right, and most of that insurance doesn't really, it's pretty clear in a lot of those retiree things that you really should be signing up for Part B or they won't cover you either. So it's rare that people slip by, but they do.
They do.
Yeah.
They think, I've got retiree coverage, I don't need Part B.
Yeah, but the literature for the retiree coverage, should have been good enough to say, yeah, you still have to do that, but obviously people read what they want, don't they?
Something important to note that I didn't know is that the penalty clock ends March 31st, the end of the general enrollment period. It doesn't matter if they sign up January 1. I didn't realize that the penalty clock continued until the end of March. So I think that might trip a couple of people up. Doesn't matter that his coverage does not start until July 1. That clock ends March 31st. I just always assumed that the clock ended whenever the coverage began, which is not the case. So I think that one's a little bit more tricky, maybe not for seasoned counselors, but for us newbies, I think that will give some good information and at least allow the seasoned counselors to kind of explain to the newer counselors of why the answer is what it is.
Well, and Social Security and Medicare are the final say on this. I think what the counselor would best do is say there is a penalty. It'll be determined by your Social Security, by them. Is it Social Security or is it Medicare?
No, Social Security, and that it generally works this way.
Right.
I don't think it's smart to try to get something locked in that isn't
Right.
going to happen.
Yeah. Just kind of give them a heads up for what's coming, and so they can read what the bad news is when they get it, because you hate to know every detail.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, comments on this one? Okay. So then we start going into the Part B penalty. So obviously 10% penalty for each full 12-month period without coverage. We can go into how the penalty is calculated. Important to note that the client is still responsible for paying that penalty to Social Security, even if the client has an Advantage plan through a third-party company. They still have to pay that penalty to Social Security. I think sometimes clients think that, oh, my health plan says there's no premium, so I don't need to pay anything. Well, that's not necessarily true. They do still have to pay that penalty if they have one.
It's 10% of the Part B premium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should I make that more clear?
No, I think people know that.
All right. Did anybody have any questions or comments on this one? All right. So you asked, so once my client incurs a Part B penalty, it stays with him or her for life, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. Again, another case study. Daniel's 60 years old and became eligible for Medicare in March 2013. Due to him receiving Social Security disability for 24 months, his Part A started March 1, but Daniel declined his Part B because he decided he couldn't afford it. His friend told him that he'd have a Part B penalty for life if he didn't sign up for Part B. Daniel called SHIP and wants to know if his friend is right. What do you tell him? So this goes into that penalty reset. If you're under 65, once you turn 65, then you will be given a new enrollment period, and that will reset that penalty. So if he signs up for Part B when he's 65, he would only have to pay that penalty if he signed up for Part B prior to him turning 65.
Is there also, for Medicare savings program? So that might be another scenario.
Because once they're eligible for the Medicare Savings Program, the state pays their premium, and the state is only charged the base amount. And interestingly, with that, if the person then later loses the Medicare Savings Program or Medicaid, and they go back to paying the premium themselves, they don't pay the penalty.
So that would be scenario 2 for a person, or even if they were 65 or older. I can't think of any other situation that they wouldn't have a penalty.
Okay. Then they will have a penalty. Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, so this is a new topic, Sarah, so the special enrollment, I would say probably 45 minutes, 45 minutes, probably.
40 for now?
I bet these scenarios will prompt people to ask about other scenarios.
So, new topic of, it seems that health savings accounts, HSAs, are becoming increasingly popular. How do HSAs work with Medicare? I think this is a pretty good topic. I think a lot of people talk about this as of now. So this goes into what a healthcare savings account even is. We talk about kind of the high deductible health plan and how it works with HSAs. Or any information that needs more clarity that counselors might have questions on?
We cover some of this in the fall, right?
We did.
Okay, so this shouldn't be...
It should be sort of a refresher.
This should be a refresher rather than new information.
Okay.
So this might be a time that the presenters might comment to the presenters that this is a conversation carried over for the fall.
I think these are different handouts now that Katie has about health savings accounts and Medicare than what we use in the fall. So the information should be very similar in all the handouts, but they're not identical handouts.
And it's never bad to ruling and not a Medicare.
That is a very important part of it because, you know, for the beneficiary, this is, number one, confusing, and number two, they can get hit really hard if they don't know the rules and they don't know about the 6-month look back. So,
and then if they really have deep questions, it's an IRS ruling, it's not a Medicare issue, ask your tax guy.
That is when you go on Social Security, not when you go on Medicare. And that's
a lot of the calls that I've had about health savings accounts from people that have gotten into a problem with it, they'd already received what seemed to be incorrect information from their employer. And, you know, it's kind of difficult you're treading on thin ice there if you're trying to explain that somebody else gave them what appears to be wrong information.
This might be an opportunity just to open up the discussion and say, have you run into these cases? Because I get these on a regular basis. You know, I didn't. You know, I probably get a call at least once a week from the HSA.
Well, the high deductible plans are taking over the world.
And, you know, we're talking here about the beneficiary's contribution to the HSA, not necessarily the employer's. And, you know, that can work both ways. If you have a couple and one's going on Medicare and one isn't, and the employer is contributing to the HSA, can the employer continue to contribute?
And I know, for example, the last case I worked on, the person is a state employee who works here in the department, and he kept going back to state personnel, and they wouldn't tell him what to do. He had to tell them what to do. And I said, you know, that is so dangerous. I mean, it really put him at jeopardy of over-contributing to that HSA. So employers don't always have the correct information, and even if they do, they're not directing that employee on what they need to do. They won't say, okay, you need to stop this contribution. Even in the state to avoid him having to pay back that contribution made on behalf of the employer. So, you know, again, it needs to be black and white in the beneficiary's mind of what is the date you're going to start your Social Security, stop actively working. When do you need to look back and decide on a date to tell the employer, you know, not only when they're going to stop making the contribution, but the employer is going to stop making the contribution.
Well, whoever administers the health savings account for the employer should be able to advise the employer on what the options and the suggestions are. And I think Susan's point's well taken. You know, this is an IRS issue, and we can't make decisions for the IRS or maybe interpret the decisions that they have made for people and expect the IRS to to hold up what we've advised clients. So I think we can just generally provide information and, not try to be so specific that somebody thinks that what we've said is 100% accurate in their case. It just may not be 100% accurate.
And I think the handouts do a fairly good job of explaining that. That's why I suggested maybe doing a sample calculation of somebody who's going to retire next year. Take the $6,300 plus whatever, divide it by 12, and say this is how much you would have to pay. And when you go on Medicare, then you don't pay that anymore.
That's a good idea, because that's exactly what we did for the state employees. Look at his retirement date, how much would be contributed during those months, and if that would, satisfy the rule about, 6 months.
It gets kind of tricky when the 6-month look back goes back into the previous year, though, and you've got part of it in the current year and part of it in the previous year, and the person may have already filed their income taxes for the previous year based on a W-2 form that the employer provided them that now appears to be incorrect, because they may owe money back to the employer, or may some of their own contribution may be taxable income for the previous year. So it really does become complicated in some cases, and I don't think we could be expected to iron all that out for most people.
Maybe just do a very generalized
Very
example.
simple.
Does anybody else have any information? Again, at the bottom, see references G and H. Those are those handouts that have a lot of the information about FAQs regarding HSAs.
FAQs regarding HSAs.
Yeah.
You're getting Mr. Lingo here, Katie. Good.
All right. So here's another case study, starting a new topic on this one. For Medicaid troubleshooting. Brian just spoke to the Medicaid office. They told him he qualified for MAL. They explained that MAL would only help him pay his Part B monthly premium. Brian's frustrated because he needs help paying the other 20% of his Medicare costs, not just the Part B premium. He calls you at SHIP. From looking at your Medicaid reference sheet that MAL means he has QMB. What do you tell him that can help him? So at the bottom, again, it says see handout I for the Medicaid terminology. Medicaid doesn't call things the same as Medicare, so as you can see, MAL is QMB at the bottom of, yep, you're at the right sheet.
Toward the bottom here.
Toward the bottom.
There we go. I got it.
Thank you. So how do I find out if a client has QMB, SLMB, or QI without having to call the Medicaid office, and what do those even mean again? So we quickly review QMB. It pays the Part A premium if there is one, and Part B, the deductibles, and these are the new income and resource limits, thanks to John, who graciously provided those to us. And then again, at the bottom of that slide, Medicaid refers to QMB as MAL. So SLMB, again, same information, just review. The new 2016 numbers, Medicaid refers to SLMB as MAJ. And QI, review, new numbers, Medicaid refers to QI as MAI. So you can also look it up based on the FSSA lookup. So these are all screenshots with arrows pointing to the correct link. So when the counselors have this, they don't remember they have everything in front of them that shows them directly how to get to the FSSA website if they don't have it already saved. So again, they would click here, the check status. It'll take them to this screen right here. They can save this web link address as a favorite in their computers. That way they can skip over the first 2 steps. They will need the case number, last name, date of birth, and last 4 of Social Security for you to be able to look up the client using this method.
And just a suggestion, everything that they get as far as correspondence on FSSA has barcodes, and if they can't figure out what their case number is, it's listed in the barcode. So that's the quickest way to find their case number.
So it's underneath that barcode.
So I don't know where you show barcode, and we have a client that, well, we wouldn't want to give out a client or case number. Just so they're looking at their barcode.
Okay.
It's available.
And it's kind of like it is on a can of green beans. It's got the barcode and then the numbers written under it.
Right.
And it's the same concept.
Okay. Comparing clients to green beans. All right. I like it. I like the way we're headed. Here we go. So then after you enter the client's information, you'll find this screen right here. I've blacked out all of the client's information for this example. At the bottom is the Medicare, and you can click the View button. It'll give you a pop-up browser that looks like this, and on the side it'll say the category. So in this example, it says MAL, so you know that means Q&B by looking at that handout I.
We've never gotten that handout. It's new to me, so
I think it's the first
I am
one.
not sure.
so it sounds like a pretty important piece of information, but most people I talk to don't even read the letters they get, so.
It's also important to note on this screen, it will tell the benefit status of whether they're eligible and currently receiving, not eligible. It'll tell them when they need to reapply for their redetermination month. In this example, it's September. So then that way, you know if this person is eligible, their redetermination month is September, they will have Q&B until at least September.
And also, isn't there a screen where if it's pending, they can click on it and it tells them why it's pending? You know, they're waiting for a particular document or...
Is that off of this screen, do you know?
That's where it would be. It would say to the right where it says open, it says open, or it says close, and it'll say pending.
Or that's the other choice, pending.
Yeah.
And if you click on that, then it will tell them why it's pending. They need to submit a driver's license or whatever it is. That's an example, but whatever they're waiting
Bank
on.
statement or something.
Bank statement,
And
right.
even if they're denied, I think it does state a reason too on why they were denied. Most of it because they didn't turn in the information.
Right.
Well, that's what it says.
Yeah, that says it's not that they didn't, it's that they didn't go and look at their faxes.
Yeah.
Or it got in the wrong folder.
You know, this piece, I'm real reluctant to start advising people on FSSA things because that's really the Medicare Family Service Office to do that kind of stuff. And I hate to swing people around, but this to me smacks of getting real close to doing some of Medicaid's work that we shouldn't be getting ourselves into. And I'm real reluctant to do that. I would be happy to show somebody who's real interested in doing it, but I sure as heck don't want to get involved with talking to people over the phone and trying to do this kind of lookup with people on the phone. I don't know how other counselors feel, but I just don't want to do Medicaid's work.
Well, I think it can still help you steer the person in the direction without saying that absolutely this is a fact, but it appears from what I'm looking at that there's a problem and you need to react to the problem. Now, I've seen some cases where all of this looks fine. The person has MAL and there's nothing pending and the recertification is September, but their Part B premium is still coming out of their Social Security payment because the process was never finished. And you can't tell from this FSSA lookup whether the process for the buy-in was finished. So if the person says that, yeah, but they're still holding the Part B premium out of my Social Security payment, they're going to have to go a step further and contact the state buy-in contractor to get that finished up. The caseworker cannot do it. The state buy-in contractor has to do it.
Which is yes. So
Right.
I don't know. Do we want to give that information out?
I just ask people to give me the person's name and Social Security number, and I'll contact the contractor and get it ironed out. And usually that's satisfactory. I hate to have 300 different counselors
So do
calling.
we want to say if because one of the things they can do from this page is print out if they're eligible, just like so. Hand the client.
Hey guys, I can't hear anymore. It's got real muffled.
Sorry, I have a cold. It's hard for me to speak really loud, but one of the things they can do, even the client.
Can't hear a thing with all the moving of papers and microphones around.
Okay, we should be fine, right? Can you hear me now? We
Yes.
had to shut the door. That one of the things that either the counselor or even the client can do if they know to go to this website is print out a page that says they're eligible. And so that's, if they're struggling with Social Security, that's one thing that they have, this piece of paper. But what John's saying is sometimes it's the buy-in contractor, which is EDS. And one thing we could include in this is rather than have the counselor go that next step and try to, advocate for the beneficiary with EDS, is just say on this handout to refer clients, or the counselor can call John, and John will take it that next step to contact the contractor for the buy-in, which is EDS.
Okay, so we want to put on there, if everything appears to look good, but the client's still having issues, just refer them on to John. And John will try to contact somebody at EDS rather than giving them the information about EDS. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes it requires multiple calls and callbacks, and I just think that's too much to expect the counselors to do.
Well, we're there once a week, we don't get callbacks.
Right, so you wouldn't be able to do that anyway, right?
Thank you. Okay. Option 2, so we just did the FSSA lookup. Option 2 is Medicare.gov lookup. So they would start it as if they were going to run a plan finder. One thing that Fred noted is you don't necessarily have to do this personalized search. There's a tool over here that says check your enrollment. You could probably do it either way and get the same information. For this example, I just did the personalized search. Before you even get to step 2, the client's information will come up right here, and you can see whether or not they are eligible for extra help. On this one, it says full Medicaid dual eligible, I think. And that's kind of a quick and easier way rather than trying to go through the FSSA website to just see. The only problem that Jessica noted on this is even if the client is eligible, it doesn't mean that they're receiving benefits. Correct, Jessica? Is that okay?
Explain that,
It may
Jessica.
say that they're eligible, but they may not be receiving the benefits yet. So, although this one's probably a little bit more familiar to the counselors, it's probably not as reliable as FSSA.
What would be an indicator that they're not receiving the benefits yet?
Well, I mean, they may have filled out like something to like Social Security, or Social Security recognizes, hey, they're low income, so they might, more or less, if they're eligible, they could apply. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have a resource that could be higher too.
For example, when you look at this, they could have LIS. They could have applied for LIS. But in Indiana, Social Security sends that lead data to the state Medicaid office, but our state doesn't automatically qualify them for the Medicare Savings Program. It goes the other way around. If they apply for Medicare Savings Program, they automatically qualify for LIS. So from this, you can't tell. You can tell they have LIS, but you don't necessarily know if they have the Medicare Savings Program.
So the word eligible is just sort of deceiving then, isn't it?
In so many words, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't know for sure if they have the Medicare Savings Program unless you use the FSSA website.
All right, do we have any questions about how to look these up either on the FSSA lookup or the Medicare.gov lookup?
I think it's going to take a lot longer because we've all taken a lot longer to discuss it, so we might think about that during the training. Give this a little more time.
Okay. So what are we thinking? Maybe
Especially since
30,
this is new.
45 minutes maybe on this?
We didn't do the last Medicare and HSA timeline either.
I'd say since that one's review, that would probably be a little bit, yeah, maybe 30, and then with the Medicaid troubleshooting goes 40, 45.
People want to share horror stories.
You know they will.
Yes, they will.
One time. All right, and last topic. You asked, I find the MSP application process to be confusing, and I heard there were some changes to the application itself. Can you provide any more clarity? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep, typo. Okay. All right. So the MSP application troubleshooting. So there is a new application. Susan, I don't know exactly how newer, I guess.
It's 2009, I think.
Okay, so not brand new, but pretty new, I guess. We just updated the website to have the new application, or the 2009 application. So when clients go to the website or you refer to a client to the website, they will have that new application access.
The application for QMB, et cetera, came about in 2009 when there was a specialized one, at least as far as I know, because before you had to do the whole dang thing. But they revised that application within, I don't know when it was, probably the last few months maybe. I don't know when the revision date is on those new apps that don't require two signatures of the client.
And also, since I believe it's 2011, it does not have the recovery statement on it. And that came up recently because one of our counselors had the old version with the recovery statement on it. Federal law prohibits the states from state recovery for the Medicare Savings Program.
And that's been since 2010. So people have had those old forms then for many, many years if they're still trying to use them.
Right, and when it changed, we were told in a staff meeting, remember, we had a Medicaid lady there, and she said, no, we're not printing new apps. Use up all these ones that we have. And so then we got a letter, I believe it was from CMS, I still have it on my hard drive. I just emailed it to Hendricks County because they wanted some clarification that one of the points in that letter is no state recovery for MSPs. So, but for some clients, they're not even going to look at it and they will take you at your word. No, they're not going to come get your house for this type of Medicaid. It's still, a state recovery still is good for full, I call it full boat Medicaid, but, right. So there is that. I mean, I think unless your client has a problem with it, we use up what we have. But if we want to get rid of all those and do all new ones, we can do that too.
Well, I think if counselors are still using the old forms, and they forget about the conversation that we're having now, or they never heard it, they may think that that still exists, that the recovery still exists.
I would hope no shift counselor would know that, or think that.
And we don't want it to be a deterrent from people applying. That's why the federal.
Got rid of it.
Right, at the federal level, they mandated that states not do the estate recovery. It's because it was a deterrent. We don't want it to be a deterrent.
Okay. On this, I put the two first pages of the old application on the left, the new application on the right. You can see with the yellow box what's different from the old application to the new application. One thing that Susan had mentioned when I was discussing this is the word household can be misleading. So I put a note in there that the household is determined by how many people are supported by at least 50% of an income. She gave me the example of a 90-year-old mom who lives with her daughter and helps occasionally with the grandkids. The 90-year-old mom is not financially supporting the daughter or the grandkids with 50% or more for income, so therefore her household is still only one.
That was the technical explanation of a household was also in the document I had from whoever that was from. I can't remember. But I can email it to anybody who wants it. From 2010.
This is the second and last page of the Medicare Savings Program. Again, old is on the left, new is on the right. You can see that they still have the last signature box, but the signature box above it is gone. And this is where we talked about the estate recovery with the MSP. So there is no estate recovery as we've been discussing. See the handout J for the new copies of the Medicare Savings Program. I think in here I have put, if you have the old application, throw it away. Jessica, you might be, does our call center have enough new applications printed off, ready to send out if we have a mass throwing away of the old applications? Do you know that?
No.
But we will.
So can each trainer take some new applications with them to distribute at that point? If we're telling them throw them all away, we want them to do that immediately, and then we can immediately replace them with the good ones. Another good thing about the new one is they combine rights and responsibilities and the hints and reminders on 2 pages instead of 3.
And you may have explained this earlier, but on the older application, maybe not the oldest, but the older that we've used recently, there was a confusing part at the beginning about an authorized person, and that's off of here, isn't it?
Yeah. It starts right in with people, with household stuff.
There was something that I saw down here on the new application of if you're having somebody fill it out for you, there's a specific form that you have to fill out. Has anybody had to use the specific form to fill it out for the authorization? Well, when I went to that form, it was something to do with food stamps. So it might have the wrong form number on there, but that is on the new application.
And I don't think that necessarily means that the SHIP counselor is helping the person fill it out. It's where you're establishing an authorized representative.
Okay.
And,
that was a little confusing.
I'm having a hard time talking about everybody, but instead of bringing piles of these applications, let's just put one in the counselor's folder. And if they have to, they can make copies of it until they call our extension 221 and place an order. That's our normal procedure. That they would call extension 221. We would send them whatever they request, and then they can have the copy in their folder, and if they need to, they can make copies of it so we can get them a stock.
And it's also in 2 places on the website, which was why one of them was probably old. In a pinch, they can definitely print it out as a nice PDF. So in 2 different places, they can find it pretty easily.
We have 15 for me, right, for today?
And on here, the handout J is the application itself. So we've already incorporated the new MSP application into the handout. So they should have the new application, at least one copy of it. Did anybody have questions so far on the application itself? No? Okay. All right. So what happens after the client fills out their application? So this is kind of a lengthy process of sending it to the FSFA Document Center. They go through, an interview where they may be asked to provide additional documents to prove their income and asset levels. And then we go into talking about the Part B buy-in. Some of my wording, John, I don't know if you've reread it. It might still be a little off. I refer to it as a process, but it's not really a process. So we go in and talk about how the Part B buy-in works, and then how the final determination is made. Then the client is finished if their application is accepted, but they always have the option to appeal if they are denied.
Is the interview always face-to-face, or do they phone interview?
Phone. Phone, yep.
And we include the fax number, which is the same as their 800 number. A lot of people don't realize it's both. They call and ask what the fax number is, and they tell them it's the number you called.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, somehow it's electronic,
Switches it.
signal
Yeah.
that it knows whether it's a phone or a fax. The other thing is, we talked about lost documents. If they fax it supposedly, and this is how it was explained to me, that it's electronically put into their computer system. So it's not like our fax where it prints out a piece of paper. It's digitized and goes right into their computer system, and based on that case number, that barcode, it's attached. Okay. So,
and it seems like some of the caseworkers have trouble locating those documents within the client's file. So they may say, well, you didn't send in your bank statement, and the person says, yes, I faxed it in. Oh, yes, now I see it, the caseworker says. They weren't seeing it to begin with. And when the determination is made, if they're not seeing all those documents, the determination may be that the case is denied. The application is denied based on insufficient evidence being submitted. And that would be the point where a person would want to appeal. In looking at this slide here, where you've got part buy-in, that would actually be the end result after the determination is made. So if you just switch those around, determination comes before the buy-in. If the determination is that the case is denied, there will be no buy-in.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any of the language confusing, misworded?
It would be nice to think I'm wrong, but I thought the 45 days was them to act on the case, not have it all decided. I thought it was 45 days from application date that Medicaid had to take a little peeky-poo at. But I'd love to be wrong and think that they're going to make their decision in 45 days.
Well, they can't always make a decision in 45 days because if there's documents that are not sent in promptly, then they can't make a determination.
Right, but there's timelines for the client to get that stuff in.
Right, usually about 10 days.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always thought it was like.
I can research that a little bit.
Why I think that, I don't know.
also, I wonder if we want to mention that due to the elimination of the spend-down provision in June of 2014, that the buy-in income levels were raised. You think that's important or not? Because
Do you think people think about spend down anymore?
no, but I think that a lot of people are surprised how high our income level is.
And if somebody has already called 1-800-Medicare about, for example, Medicare Savings Program eligibility, they may have already been told that their income is too high to qualify, when in fact by Indiana standards it is not too high.
Yeah, I hear that also. I hear from other shift directors that, ours is one of the highest. And I can't hardly believe it.
So we want to put that information here?
I would make it simple, just in the fact that, just say, due to the elimination of the spin-down provision, June of 2014, Indiana has one of the highest income levels for eligibility for the Medicare Savings Program. And maybe put in parentheses 185%.
Right, but that's this amount or this amount? This qualified Medicare beneficiary or individual?
Qualified individuals, 185%.
Yeah, because the full board is not 185%.
No,
Okay.
but it, compared to other states, our buy-in is higher, but, it's scaled out higher proportionally.
Yeah.
So people who qualify, like John said, who qualify in Indiana for QMB still will be told that they're not eligible on 1-800 Medicare because our QMB is higher.
I wish they would just say, every state makes its own rules, so call Indiana.
Well, they sort of do, I think.
And it says it in
Things in
the,
publications
it says
with
it-
figures in them.
it also says it in our presentations too.
That are state figures. I mean, they can quote LIS all day long, because that's their thing, but when it comes to MSP, just let us do our thing.
And the same thing is actually true for resources. Indiana is using the federal standard, but in some states, the resource level for QMB or SLMB eligibility is much higher, and in some states, they even ignore resources.
Yeah, and that's when it's automatic. If they get LIS, they automatically get MSP because they don't even consider their resources. There are several states actually that do that, and so their numbers of people getting one of the MSPs is a lot greater than Indiana's because it's a seamless thing.
And that would work out very well if we did that in Indiana for these hip transition people.
Sure would, or just a provisional thing, provisionally approve them for 6 months until Medicaid and Medicare can do its thing and look at their assets if they still want to have an asset test. But I would love to see some sort of just automatic thing for X amount of time, but no one's asking me at the state. Cheryl, hop on over there and wave our flag.
I'll be honest with all of you, it's not going to happen.
But yeah.
We don't necessarily want everybody to be eligible for entitlement programs in the state of Indiana. Right, the honest part of it.
That's what I say too. Indiana's not a big, let's get everybody on Medicaid that's qualified. It's not our thing.
Because we might have to raise taxes.
Right. Or spend some of the money we've got.
That's true.
Or say we put more entitlement programs even though entitlement means they're entitled to it.
Yes, we can stop now. Going towards the edge there.
Okay, so last slide on this one is, if you still don't feel comfortable filling out the Medicare Savings Program application or guiding a client through the entire process, send him or her to an enrollment center. Handout K shows all of the enrollment centers. I'm not sure how up to date it is. Susan, you might have to check on that.
Okay, right.
I know you added some, so I don't know if it's been added yet. But also keep in mind that some enrollment centers don't have shift counselors on hand, so they may only be able to give their expertise relating to Medicare Savings Program, not any Medicare questions, that they have.
Who checks these enrollment centers?
That would be my thing.
Okay. I would ask you to check the Area 8 Crooked Creek one.
They're off here.
Not on this one.
So maybe that one's not.
St. Catherine's is now an enrollment center instead of a site, right?
It depends on what St. Catherine's you're talking about.
The hospital.
There's a church and there's a hospital.
The hospital.
The hospital is, yes.
C4 is what it says here, what
Right.
that means.
It's Crooked Creek Community
Yeah, C4.
Council.
But what I'm,
Right, they are no
Katie.
longer in enrollment.
right, and so the sheet should be updated.
Yeah, I emailed that out. I think my subject line was, they come and they go.
Yeah.
That's true. I actually had, Elizabeth updated on the iDrive, so that copy didn't come from the iDrive. So that's the copy, maybe just so you could get with Susan after this meeting and make sure.
Can I get to the, I can't get to the iDrive.
Do you happen to remember what folder it was in?
It's, just, do the IDOI ship, and it's at the very top.
It's just loose in our section, okay. Because I need that for the website sometimes, instead of asking, I just go to get it myself.
Susan, when you talk to the non-AAA enrollment centers, you might mention at some point that people that qualify for the Medicare Savings Program or LIS periodically are going to have their cases reviewed to determine whether they're eligible. It's not an eligibility for life sort of thing.
That's a good point. I have been in my new enrollment center training. The last one I did put in, there's a CMS publication that we stock here that says, what do I do if my LIS goes away? I did include that one. Yeah, it's, some of them are very familiar with redeterminations and Medicaid, but for the ones that maybe aren't so much, that's a good point. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about the MSP application troubleshooting? Okay, so that is over. I'd say probably 30 minutes.
Yeah,
30, 45.
Again, I'm going to remind you on the last page where it says resources, you get their 800 number to put extension 221. We do not want them calling in on the 800 line. They get mixed in with everybody else, and that extension is specifically designated for counselors to call in on, so we know it's a counselor, we can pick it up.
Okay.
So at what point do you type in 221?
Right at the beginning.
Before it goes through any kind of an explanation?
Right.
Okay.
The other thing is you don't have our website, which is medicare.in.gov.
Can we put Counselor's Corner information in there too, the SHIP 2012?
Password. Okay. Doesn't seem to need the password in the past 2 years since they've converted things over, but.
I think once the first time you go in on a computer, it asks
It does
for
seem
it.
to save it, but I've gone to other computers and it doesn't ask.
Doesn't ask?
I don't know, there's no way for me to test it since it does memorize mine for me.
Last time I went on, I put it in.
Oh,
Okay,
by
that's
the
good.
way, in March, they're going to redo the website again.
That's good in the long run, I'll stay positive.
Okay, this is the, final slide for SHIP Spring 2016 update training. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to ask, wanted to add, change?
Well, let me go back to this 221, because that's someone's specific site, and I have been, when you're calling in, you do want to leave a message if it goes to the messages then, right?
Mm-hmm.
On that or not?
On 221, if you just call the 800 number, you're mixed in with all the benefits.
Well, I mean, a lot of times I have to call to tell people I'm eligible to take calls, so I call.
221.
But I've been asked to not leave messages on 221 before, I thought.
Well,
Part
it's
of
not
it.
always that they check those messages. So if a counselor is taking calls and they're leaving a message, we might not check that until 3:30, 4 o'clock, and it's too late that, hey, she was taking a call. We didn't
I
know
just
that.
call the regular numbers,
Yeah.
I'm taking calls.
We have one
I
person
keep it.
that, on that extension, there is absolutely no reason why your phone's not picked up.
Lunch.
They're on
They're on
another
for
call.
Yeah.
somebody else. That's a priority call. Maybe I need to go back over that with the staff.
Yeah, because I do get the voicemail from time to time.
A lot of them do, because they'll call my phone, like Linda Stavros at Prime Life, and she cannot get any of the girls. Like, she tries all their extensions, and she calls me.
I just want to get their number.
Yeah.
Because I know you're going to pick up.
And when their phones are busy, I mean, of course they can't pick up those.
Right,
No.
but it rolls to other phones.
There is a
Yeah.
designated person to answer that line, it's a priority line.
Which one, the 221? Well, yeah, it rings into which is Chandria now. So like I said, if she's at lunch,
It's still a priority.
It rings.
Transferred to somebody else.
it's supposed to. They're supposed to forward that call to somebody else's extension, but they don't.
Oh, you mean the person who owns that line?
Yeah, the
has to
person,
forward it
when
they
she goes,
move off.
yeah.
Forgetting to do it or
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, if you run to the bathroom,
Or,
you
for
forget.
instance, if she's not here either.
Well, then
somebody-
it still needs to be transferred.
Exactly, it's supposed to be forwarded over.
Nothing to-
You're on to.
Anything else to discuss? Okay. Does anybody have any last minute comments, suggestions, questions?
I'd like to open it up for discussion about what we did in the fall with the presenters, binders and the counselors folders. Did you want any changes? Do you want it, how it's packaged?
I think the binders just add a lot of volume to things that, we just have limited storage space, and I like to keep the handouts, and generally I would pull them out of the binders and just stick them in a folder next to this, then I can find them. But I don't know, other people might like them, but
Last
I
time
don't need them.
they came in in a pronged folder. It wasn't a binder, it was a folder. I like getting all my stuff in a folder. I thought it was a
They
good
had
idea
high
to
reviews.
give out information.
Good.
Because then I have it all right there.
It was nice for the day, that's.
Well, that's what we're talking about, is for the day, because we're talking about presenters having the information available to them on the presenting day. They may have to take it out of the folder and
Oh,
set
you're
it
not
up.
talking about the participants.
No.
Presenters, sorry.
I
Right?
liked getting how last time we got a folder, it had prongs and pockets, and we got everything we needed for spring training. We had all the supplemental materials, we had the handout, the PowerPoint handout, remember?
Are you talking about what the counselors got or what the presenters got?
Well, I wasn't a presenter and I got one.
Okay. But
Well, the presenters had something different than you had.
Right.
Presenters had
Well, I
a
don't know
three-ring
about
binder, right, instead
I
of
was
the
in the
folder.
peanut gallery, not up front.
Okay. Yeah, for the counselors, we have ordered those same folders again, and the pockets, so we'll do the same thing for them. So in terms of a presenter standpoint, you'd rather have it in that folder too?
No, I'm not a
Or-
presenter, I'm just never mind, it's okay.
Or should we do the three-ring binders again?
Yes,
Like the three-ring binders idea? Okay.
yes.
The nice thing about the three-ring binders is you can open them up and take pages out if you want to without having to tear the whole thing apart.
If anybody wants to check my math on this agenda, I'm not real good at that, but, that's what I have so far, is 3 hours and 5 minutes, and I'm sure there's gonna be discussion on top of that, so check my math.
And, you need a 15-minute break, or you're gonna get complaints
Okay,
right in the middle somewhere.
put it here for now.
Well, just take 5 minutes off a couple of them, and then you get your 15 minutes.
He is starting on time.
Starting on time.
And controlling the conversation. I think the discussion is truly valuable, but, we have some people that are just gonna dominate and go on and on and on about the same thing, and the presenters need to control that and make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk about their issues, but still keep it on track.
And, we ran into a problem last fall, and maybe some other seasonal trainings too, that some of the counselors or some of the trainers had trouble relating the topics to the the name of the training. Like this one, you asked, we answered. I think the presenters need to make it clear that our topics were based on what counselors said they wanted to hear about.
On the survey.
On the survey. And so, you know, it was not possible to have 300 different topics in the training, but we picked the ones that were the most prevalent.
Okay. I think that's all I have. We can adjust the time kind of accordingly later. At least we have kind of a good start. If there's anything else, anybody else wants to add before we get off here?
Oh, I think I'm off mute now. Can you hear me, Katie?
Yep.
Do we want at the beginning, Cheryl, I know in December you talked about our SHIP mission statement and putting it out there more. Do we want to have that at the beginning of the materials? And then a one-pager on a tour of SHIP, because we did change quite a bit of staff this past quarter, and how to contact the office in that 221 extension?
I think we can go ahead and put the office list, maybe as updated office list, and just set it out. Let people pick it up or put it in their folders. Put it in their folders. Good idea.
Sure.
But as far as the mission and all that, I think we need to wait, and I keep saying this, but it's going to happen. The performance committee needs to work on that first before we take it back out to the counselors.
Okay. I still remember my Franciscan one. That's burned in my brain.